Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. Well, good afternoon. Welcome. For those that don't know me, I'm Stephen Pettigo. I am the director of the LBJ Urban Lab and faculty at the LBJ School, just across the Greenway there. It's great to welcome you all to our event, Unlocking Housing Supply, looking at market-driven solutions for growing our communities. I'm excited to see a really full room today, particularly as we address these issues. A couple thoughts. I want to say a big thank you to my colleagues at the Civitas Institute, Ryan and Joel, for helping us put this event together. I actually think this is we were talking about this before the event. This is one of the first collaborations that we've seen between the Civitas Institute and the LBJ School, and hopefully we'll continue to do more of this. So it's really excited to do this with y'all. So thank you all for being here. We are here today to really unpack and talk about the idea and the issue of housing affordability. As we know, you look at across Texas, this is an issue that we are seeing that's coming up to the forefront of our policy discussions. I'm a member of an organization called the Texas Lyceum. Every year we do a poll that asks Texas residents what are the issues that really matter to them and are the pressing issues of the time. And about 75% of our respondents to the survey have indicated that housing affordability and the challenges of housing affordability is front and center for Texas residents. And if you think back 4 or 5 years prior to the pandemic, I moved from New York University, come to LBJ School. The idea of a housing affordability and the challenges of housing affordability was something that a lot of Texans weren't really, frankly, talking a lot about. It was one of those things we still thought about our affordability as a challenge. And as we know now, looking across our state, it's become a bigger issue. And particularly, it's a growing issue across the U.S. It's estimated about 4.5 million, 5 million deficit in terms of the homes that we'll need here. If we look at Texas residents, Texas households, about 1 in 3 Texas households are spending about more than 30% of their income. If you look at renters, particularly renters, we know that renters making under $20,000, 9 in 10 are cost burden. So there's an issue of dealing with our affordability that's really front and center. I think what makes this event exciting for me is, frankly, it's a room that's really comprised of people that I actually don't hang out with a lot in terms of different folks that are thinking about market-based solutions. I find myself a lot of times hanging out in the affordable housing space. And so today I'm excited to talk about mixed perspectives about how we think about these issues. Particularly, we've got a lot of expertise to the table, legal and regulatory expertise. I'm excited that Mayor Parker from Fort Worth is here, as well as my good friend Kirk Watson. Mayor Kirk Watson is here as well to talk about what's happening here in Austin and Fort Worth, 2 of the fastest growing cities, by the way, in the country, and trading populations back and forth all the time, to talk about what they're doing from a policy standpoint and, frankly, how they're working with the private sector to address these issues. So for today, we've got a really kind of fun event set up for you all. We're going to be doing a series of what I call kind of lightning round discussion sessions. We're going to kick off our session today with a really fun keynote from Jennifer Hernandez, who I'll introduce here in a bit, to talk about what are some lessons that we can learn, particularly from another state named California, frankly, and some of the things that have happened there, and maybe some things that we could look to as opportunity, but maybe things that we should avoid. My colleague Ryan Streeter is going to lead a conversation with our mayors, as we mentioned earlier. And then if you are a data nerd like myself, we've got a really awesome conversation that my friend Joel Kotkin is going to moderate with a few folks, looking at what the data tells us and what's the story around affordability issues. And then we'll close up the evening with a discussion that I'll lead around what's happening with our practitioners. What are practitioners in the space actually seeing around these issues? So again, thank you all for being here. Again, thanks to Ryan and Joel and the Civitas Institute for doing this. And thank you all for being part of today's conversation. So with that, let me introduce our keynote speaker, Jennifer Hernandez. Jennifer was telling me she's in from California on her 24-hour visa to visit the state of Texas, which I appreciate. We don't want her to stay too long. We don't want her to do what all the other Californians in my neighborhood have done, and that is actually unpack and move in. But Jennifer has practiced land use and environmental law for more than 30 years. She leads Holland Knight's West Coast Land Use Environmental Group. She's a longtime chair of the firm's national presence around land use and the government team. She splits her time between Berkeley and LA. She's built, I think, a really robust career kind of navigating this complex regulatory environment and understanding what are the things that are the barriers that are standing in our way as it relates to housing. Tonight, she's going to share her insights, her perspective on this, on how we could think about some reforms here as well as across the country that could help us unlock the supply of housing for families and communities here in Texas and beyond. My friends, join me in welcoming Jennifer Hernandez to the podium.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to try not to overstay my welcome. I'll be gone in 15 minutes. No. I really appreciate the opportunity to visit America. It's wonderful. I remember it from when I grew up. But I want to ask that you look on the bright side, because what we've done to ourselves in California has been a series of policy choices that we've made and inflicted on ourselves, which means they can be changed. We're not worried about the laws of physics. We're worried about the laws of various accidental, I think, and in some cases, unintended consequences. I have 4 substantive slides here. First one, though, on the title slide is, who's heard of the abundance movement or the book Abundance? It's a sort of left, center-left signaled notion. Ezra Klein, New York Times columnist, did a book on it, that takes the position, and he's a very liberal Democrat, that if you believe as a liberal Democrat in big government, the progressive movement, the liberal movement, has to take some responsibility for the fact that in the deepest blue cities and states, the government has failed the worst. Bad housing, bad education, bad crime, stagnant economic growth, out-migration. These are blue phenomenon. And so what is it about the way big government is now running itself that is broken? And that was a heresy. And one of the significant things the book talks about is housing. And so I want to sort of introduce this concept of, God forbid, a nonpartisan issue, because building more is a thing whose time has come. The abundance movement had its second convening in DC, and it was across the spectrum, MAGA far right, California far left, united around this idea of less expensive starter homes. It's just not political to think people need to live somewhere. And it becomes political if you make it. And California has made it, and we've broken it. So I am a land use environmental lawyer. It's been 40 years now. Oh, my God. Land use environmental law in California is not the political game it is in many parts of the country. It is a blood sport of nobody knows it, 5-year-old soccer game law. And it's that much of an open playing field. I'm proud to have worked with Joel and Wendell for many years now. We have an upcoming report coming out for Civitas on the kind of Latino population, which in a really quick way trends center left, but really close to that center. And so anything that looks too far left doesn't work, looks too far right doesn't work. And I gotta say, feels about that center that is just nonpartisan, right? It doesn't matter what the big picture edge issues are. Home ownership is something people should be able to do. It's really important. Education, being able to move to get a better job or a better home. These are core features of national polling and focus groups that Civitas sponsored, and we're very grateful and understand the report will be out in the next couple of months. But today's topic is really the housing crisis in the context of lessons learned from a one-party state. And the debate here is abundance on housing, even in the book, is really aimed at a sort of Brooklyn Berkeley kind of, people should live in apartments, walk, ride the bike, or take the bus, and contemplate their various appendages? I don't know. But it is not a home ownership agenda. It is not a mobility agenda. It is we live in cool, kind of better dorms now called apartments or condos, and we love our urban life. And everyone needs to do this. And it's that everyone needs to do this that's the scold part of the progressive left agenda that has infected California housing policy. And it doesn't work. So another Ezraism is this notion of everything bagel. It's like, let's do chargers. Okay, for electric vehicles, wonderful. Now let's do 17 things on top of let's do chargers. And by the time you're done with 17 things, guess what? There are no electric chargers. That's what we've done with housing policy. We have loaded it up with so much more than housing. So for example, it should be urban redevelopment, not, God forbid, a single parcel of land next to the freeway, unless it's been previously developed. That's kind of tied up with climate and environmentalism and this kind of, we're over our holding. California has developed less than 6% of the state for the nation's largest population. We have 6 of the 10 most dense regions in the country. But God forbid we move from 6% developed to 7% development. We will crater the world. And it's kind of this dogma. And the thing about California dogma is it spreads. Californians move, and we share our views, and we bring some money, and then we share our opinions with money. And suddenly your community is no longer the community you knew it to be. So it's, I think, relevant for you to think about this dogma and a couple others, because I'm going really fast here. We must increase population density in order to support public transit and walkable neighborhood communities. A beautiful campus, a walkable community. My general theory about progressive urbanists is they grew up in suburbs and they hated not being able to walk places. They went to college and they bloomed and they want to live in a college environment for life until approximately age 32 when they have their second kid, and then they don't want any part of it. But for those who can afford to still live a nice life in an urban area, this is what drives them. And I get it. It's a choice. People have made the choice to live in Manhattan for years. Most people choose not to. The fact is, we can't afford that form of life. There is no more expensive housing typology to build than a high-rise steel structure. 5-7 times more per square foot to build. There is no more expensive land than previously developed land, which already has some economic value, infrastructure and whatnot. These density projects, the 5/1 apartments, 1 story of not enough parking and 5 stories of housing, they rent at $4,000 a month. $4,000 a month is not affordable. Even though California has higher median income by a little bit, that is not an affordable rent. And it's only a rental. There's no homeownership part of this agenda except for townhome density urban redevelopment sites, which are about $1 million each, unless you're in Palo Alto or Newport Beach, in which case they're about $1.6 million. That is not an affordable home ownership product. So let's do missing middle. Missing middle, yay, it sounds so great. What's missing middle? Missing middle is as unaffordable because it has dense, more complex building form on existing urbanized land. There is no part of this housing dogma that works for a median income family. No part of it. Also, we have special interests. We're the only state in the nation where the construction building trades think they should be able to build residential. And when they do, it costs about 1/3 more, not for the labor part, but for the project cost. And we know that because they have to build certain kinds of affordable housing, so we've got the data. We also have all these really, really extremely exciting, cutting-edge building codes. So, we have one of the most temperate climates in the world, but God forbid we should have a window that opens and shuts. No. We're on the Starship Enterprise. We have to have sealed windows. We have to circulate them so we spend less energy heating and cooling the air that is heated or cooled enough with an open window. And God forbid you forget to change the filters and get Legionnaires, or you can't afford the country's most expensive electricity and running that fan 24/7 with those temperature controls. You can't afford it. Or running the heat pump with that electric. You can't afford it. And then you can't even open your window. That is a whole set of policy decisions that was made in complete contempt of working families such as my own. I'm the granddaughter of steel workers from Pittsburgh, California, because we used to have industry. My dad was permanently laid off at age 56. This is not responsive to people. All right, 200 plus laws later, we have absolutely fallen even further behind in housing production. We have this MacGuffin, for those of you who remember that term. We have fewer single-family homes being built every year, fewer apartments being built every year, but we have ADUs, backyard cottages or garage conversions. And with ADUs, we were holding kind of steady at 110,000 or so new units a year. But we are having meddled in policy land for 7 years with more than 200 laws further behind than we ever were. This is not rocket science as to how to create affordability. Wendell and Joel are among the nation's leaders on this. You can't do it without more land. You need land to expand. You can't do it without water and sewer. Hey, dudes, you can't. If you want to solve for a physical problem like housing, as opposed to a mental problem like, large language models, I don't even understand, you have to live in the physical world of atoms. And we need space, and we need things like water and sewage treatment, as well as school systems and other stuff. So we have solutions, we know solutions. We also have incredibly lucrative, if you charge by the hour as I do, opportunities for lawyers in this space if you want to move over. The highest percentage of CEQA, our version of a once environmental law, lawsuits, which can be filed by anyone for any reason, labor unions, business competitors, anything. Anybody can file, alleging that more should be done to protect the environment. Top target, housing, top target apartments. Where? Why, my goodness, in whiter, wealthier neighborhoods. Now, is that about protecting the environment? If we read about this in California as happening in some unknown southern state, we would be on the buses to the ramparts saying these people are abusing what they're calling environmental law to keep people who can only rent out of their neighborhoods. And who are those people? Demographically, those people are browner and younger in California. We would be to the ramparts with our California values. But instead, we camouflage them with this environmentalist rhetoric that was first observed by an MIT professor back in, believe it or not, the first housing crisis we declared in 1982. I don't have to keep going on. You should feel happy with where you're living, and that your challenges are at a still more manageable scale and require political will. From far-right MAGA to relatively moderate on the California spectrum, progressives at the Abundance Conference, let's build starter homes, let's build more energy, let's get the infrastructure right, we need more water, we need all of these things, transportation. There is a nonpartisan agenda here. It's an agenda that's very people-oriented and still protects the environment. It is, I think, an opportunity for you to call out some of the worst of California's excesses and say no. Just call them for what they are. They're anti-people. We have a huge segment of Democratic Socialists of America. Our left is not your left. You don't have this left. And that left is the one edge of our political spectrum, and a liberal is on the extreme right. It's that Elon Musk sort of, spectrum. It is not easy to turn the tide. San Francisco's bottomed out. Why? They have a ton of money, and they have, thank God, Chinese parents who need schools to function and believe in home ownership. And between the demographics of the Asian voters and the money of the tech bros, it's bottomed out. That's a rarefied opportunity politically. It doesn't exist even in most of California. We can do better. I'm dedicated to trying to do better. And I urge you to not allow this virus, this dogma, to create further havoc in what I think is still a noble, important, and really critical problem to solve, which is housing in Texas. Thank you.